Discovered my boyfriend was secretly buying a house without me, hiding gambling debts, and offering marriage as a panic move. I'm Ashley, a 29-year-old woman, and I've been with my boyfriend, Javi, who's also 29, for 7 years now. We met back when we were 21, and, honestly, it's been a pretty great run. Sure, we've had our fights and rough patches, but there was nothing we couldn't work through together. Before meeting each other, we'd both dated other people pretty seriously, so by the time we got together, we agreed that we were both dating for marriage. That understanding was our foundation, and it felt like we were absolutely on the same page about our intentions. Things ramped up in late 2020 when I found out I was pregnant. Suddenly, marriage wasn't just the abstract future, it was something imminent. I was really ready for it, and Javi said he was too, but then I suffered a miscarriage, and that single event seemed to just swallow up every conversation and emotion for a long time. The marriage talk faded into the background, replaced with grief. I got pregnant again in 2022, and in 2023, we welcomed our daughter into the world. The marriage conversation was brought up a few times after her birth. We both said we wanted it, and we agreed we didn't want to wait forever, but there was no real urgency behind it. However, two thorny issues started to weigh us down. 1. Javi's so-called jokes. They weren't jokes at all, just snide, passive-aggressive remarks at my expense. He'd say something mean, and follow up with, "I was just kidding." I always felt like I was walking on eggshells around him, trying desperately to dodge comments that stung in ways I couldn't even articulate. We were trying to work on it, but honestly, it was a persistent sore spot. Then came the moment that broke something fundamental for me. Right before our daughter's first birthday, Javi had just come home from work. I was playing the board game Life with our daughter and his younger siblings. His brother is 9, his sister 13. The kids had just gotten married in the game and were giggly and bouncy, teasing Javi as he walked in. "Javi, are you going to marry Ashley?" I looked at him, grinning, expecting him to play along with something funny or sweet, but he just stared at me, ran his eyes up and down my body with an expression of what felt like disgust or total indifference, and flatly said, "No." Then he just walked away. It was like the air went out of the room. His siblings immediately reacted, "Oh, that was fucked up," and there was this crushing awkwardness hanging in the air. I followed Javi into the other room, my chest tight, and demanded to know what that was about. His response? What's wrong with what I said? I told him it was incredibly rude for him to say that, especially after 5 years together, building towards marriage. He just waved it off like it was nothing. I wasn't being serious, it was just a joke. No apology, no acknowledgement of how humiliated I felt, particularly in front of his family. Later that evening, I pressed the issue again, and I was explicit. Talking to me like that isn't just unkind, it's cruel. There's nothing funny about making your partner feel small. I told him flat out that belittling what we were working towards, building a life and a family, made it clear we weren't on the same page. Just a few days later, it was the night before our daughter's first birthday party. A friend of mine from out of town was staying with us, and we were talking about the chaos of party planning and mixing our families. I asked Javi, "What do you think about your stepmom's behavior?" Without missing a beat, he snapped at me, "I don't know, Ashley, you seem so fucking concerned, why don't you fucking ask her?" My friend was right there, and the boiling humiliation rushed back all over again. That was my breaking point. I finally told him I was done. I just couldn't withstand this kind of treatment, not in public, not in private, not ever. But breaking up wasn't simple. I felt trapped. Our lease had over a year left, and it would have cost us almost $4,000 to break it. So we lived together, broken up, in our 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. Those first 3 or 4 months I was emotionally distant, attempting to date here and there, which was awkward and disheartening because I was still living with my ex and had a baby to consider. After about 5 months, Javi and I started talking again. After 6 or 7 months separated, we tried dating again. I laid it all out. The marriage comments and the way he'd made me feel were the breaking point because our foundation had always been that we were working toward marriage. Javi apologized, saying the timeline should be within 1 or 2 years, and that he was sorry for making it seem like he didn't want that with me. That timeline felt good, it gave me something concrete when the past had felt so shaky. We both agreed, we'd fix what went wrong and keep that mutual goal. Now, nearly a year and a half since we reconciled, we're approaching that 2-year mark. So I sit down with him, ready for an honest talk about where we stood on marriage. That's when he stuns me, "I don't really care about it. It seems like you want to get married for a title. I don't see why you don't just believe me when I say I want to be with you forever." I was floored, utterly gobsmacked. How could we possibly be living in the same reality? It's been 2 weeks since the conversation, and the whole thing weighs on me constantly. I just can't let it go. I've tried bringing it up 2 more times. Once, he ignored me completely, looked right at me, then changed the subject to what we should have for dinner, as if my soul-bearing questions were background noise. Another time, he just accused me of looking for a reason to leave him. It's like we're speaking entirely different languages. I've leaned heavily on friends, my parents, even his mother, who I'm very close with. I feel so lost and almost desperate, trying to convince myself that I could stay with someone and not end up bitter and resentful if we never got married. But the truth is, I don't know if I have that in me. Right now, it feels like the bedrock of my relationship has been ripped out from underneath me. Javi keeps insisting that boyfriend and girlfriend is sufficient, that I only want marriage for the title. But I've poured my heart out explaining the emotional and spiritual meaning of vows, the significance of declaring your love and commitment in front of family and friends. And, most of all, the practical side carries so much weight. I recently went through some serious medical issues and had an organ removed. If something had gone wrong during surgery, my mom, not Javi, would have had power of attorney over my medical decisions. My mom, who I love, but she is not the person I want making those choices for me. It should be Javi, the person I've built my life with, the father of my child. Then there's the smaller heartbreaks. If I'd known he would never want to marry me, I wouldn't have given our daughter his last name. I would have given her mine, made life simpler for both of us. And honestly, what kind of person doesn't want their partner, someone they've built a life with, to say, yes, I choose you, right in front of the people who matter most? Maybe it sounds silly, but I want that. I want to be wanted, truly wanted, in every way. I've been in my relationship for 4 years now, and lately, everything seems to come back to one thing: marriage. I keep circling around this topic in my head, and with him, but all I'm left with is this tangled feeling. Marriage to me isn't just about the ring, or the title, or the wedding party, though sure, I want those things too, but above all, marriage means making a promise. It's the assurance and the public declaration that we're really, truly committed to each other. That's the meaning I crave deep down. I've even compromised time and time again. I told him I don't need the legal part if it bothers him. I just want us to have something like a notarized power of attorney, because feeling secure is the main thing I want out of the legal aspect anyway. Rings? I said we could pick out the most affordable ones together. A wedding or ceremony? Honestly, I would be happy to skip it. For me, just standing together and saying, we choose each other, forever, would be enough. I have thrown out all the usual expectations. I have given him every possible way to meet me halfway. And still, he has been completely uninterested in all of it. 4 years in, I'm the only one bringing up marriage. It's always me. I'm the only one who suggests it, the only one who tries to talk about the future, the only one willing to bend and compromise. And it's gotten to the point where I can't shake these gnawing questions and insecurities that haunt me when I lie awake at night. Am I really about to throw away a great relationship, and all the years I've invested, just because I want the status of being married? Is my longing for marriage just a symptom of my insecurity, of feeling like maybe I'm not worthy of real commitment? It hurts to admit that, but I have to go there. I keep finding myself wondering if I'm being unreasonable for even considering breaking things off because of his sudden and total change about marriage. He used to seem open to it, but now he's so sure he never wants it, and I can't help but think, am I being too stubborn? Should I just let go of these hopes and dreams about marriage? Is that the right thing to do for us, or am I betraying my own needs? Another thought, if I hold on to him, am I actually holding him back from finding someone he does want to marry? Or painful as it is to ask, am I holding myself back from finding someone who wants the same things as me? I don't want to look back and realize I wasted years of both our lives. I wonder, too, if my insecurity in our relationship is unreasonable. Even when he says he wants forever with me, the way marriage keeps getting pushed away, or flat out shut down, makes me feel manipulated. Or maybe misled. It's so hard to trust when the story seems to shift every time I bring it up. And the last thing I can't seem to escape, am I just going crazy? Am I overthinking this? Or is this the moment where I need to ask, for real, what I want, and whether I'll ever get it with him? All of these questions swirl around, and sometimes, the weight of them is almost too much to bear. Update, we were in that brittle, careful phase again, the one where we talk about dinner and daycare and bills, but not the thing that's actually chewing me up. I'd printed out basic medical directives and a durable POA and left them on the counter with a pen. He'd said, yeah, we can go Saturday, in that non-committal way that means don't hold your breath. Saturday came and went. He decided he didn't like the vibe of notaries and suggested we make pancakes instead. I ate the pancakes and felt like I was swallowing paste. Then 2 days later, his phone lit up on the coffee table while he was in the shower. The screen said something like, "Hi Javier," touching base about title and closing docs. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. He came out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist, saw the missed call, and went pale in this way I'm not used to seeing on him. It's usually me showing every color of feeling and him stuck in grayscale. He mumbled work thing, dropped his phone face down, and started pulling socks from the dryer like the ground had just gone a little unstable. I didn't press right then. I picked up my daughter from daycare and told myself not to invent problems. But that night, while he was in a meeting in our bedroom, our printer whirred to life. I could hear the clunking sound it makes when there's more than one page and it's about to jam. I went over because the paper tray always spits pages out on the floor, and I don't need crayon masterpieces getting stuck to mortgage. Yes, mortgage disclosures. There was a stack of them. Loan estimate. Truth in lending. Borrower, Javier, last name. Co-borrower, blank. Property address, an address I didn't know. Closing date, in 2 weeks. I just stood there with my daughter hanging on my leg, her fist smudged blue-green from a marker, and I could feel the exact place my breath got stuck in my body. I was looking at the future he hadn't told me about. Not in a dreamy Pinterest board way. In a binding documents, initiations of wire transfer way. When he came out, I put the stack on the table between us because I didn't want to be accused of snooping. He stared at them. Then stared at me. Then did this shaky laugh, like, well, surprise ruined. Surprise? I said. Surprise what? A house, he said, too fast. For us, he gestured toward our daughter, who was now squishing Play-Doh yellow into Play-Doh red on the carpet. I wanted to make it special. What I said next surprised me. It wasn't crying. It wasn't screaming. It was very quiet. Why am I not on any of this? It's an easier approval with one person, he shot back. Your student loans, listen, it's a bank thing. The plan was to add you to the title after. You wouldn't even have to worry about the mortgage. I've got it, he said it like he was handing me something shiny. Like he expected me to be grateful for being left off a deed to the place he expected me to live in, raise a baby in, scrub a bathroom in. Like he'd decided I get to be the girlfriend baby mama who doesn't need to sign anything because he's got it. I will not move into a house I have no legal tie to, I said. I will not keep building a life with you on trust me it's fine. He rolled his eyes and said I was making a big deal about a title again. As in, his favorite needle shoved under my nail. Title. You and your titles. I called his mom the next morning. I didn't want to, but I needed a neutralizer to the gas in my head. She asked me to come by. I took the baby over there with a bag of strawberries and my heart hammering in my throat. She made coffee and listened, and then she did this thing with her mouth, the tight press like she's holding back words because they're not hers to say. Finally she said them anyway. His hours were getting garnished, she said. It started in December. He didn't want you to know. He knew it would make you feel unsafe. It's why he's been odd about money. And it's part of why he's being a mule about marriage. He doesn't want you tied to it. What is it? I asked, but I already knew. I'd seen it on his phone sometimes, the little green confetti screens. Parlays. Boosts. Is it gambling? She nodded. He swore he had it handled. He said it was almost paid and that closing would clear the rest, because the lender. Well, he shouldn't be doing two big things at once. She reached across the counter and squeezed my hand. I'm telling you because you deserve to not feel like you're losing your mind. I drove home and my hands were steady on the wheel in that unnatural, careful way that means everything inside me is ricocheting. Our daughter fell asleep in her car seat with her mouth open like a little bird. I carried her to her room and then I stood in the hallway and stared at the wall for a long time. There is a feeling when someone you love has arranged the room so you can walk straight into a glass door. You hit it face first and then you look down at your own palms like, did I really not see this? Was it really that clear? I didn't ask him about the gambling. I asked him if he'd sign the POA and the medical directives I'd printed. He said no. He said he didn't want to sign anything that gives the state a say in us, which is such a sentence. I told him the state already has a say in us. It always does when you have a child together. He threw up his hands and stalked to the bedroom. Later, when we were both calmer, I said I wanted us to go to a lawyer together, financial planning, estate planning, not marriage if that word made him allergic, just basic adult guardrails. He said no to that too. So I went by myself. The lawyer sat with me for an hour and a half and explained what I should have learned before I ever moved in with a man. How in our state there is no common law marriage. How the house, if it closes in his name alone with his separate funds, will be his separate property. How if I move in, and I sink my money and my labor and my time into something I have no name on, I am choosing to make my whole life depend on someone, saying trust me and meaning it forever. How custody is custody regardless of my last name, but decision making is a battlefield I should not walk into barefoot. How I can protect myself and my daughter without his permission. That afternoon I called the leasing office. I asked what it takes to get off a lease here. The answer almost made me laugh. Buyout. A number that felt obscene last year suddenly read like tuition for a class I needed to take. I texted my dad, who still has the tone I can't fake when he says, do the hard thing. He said he would loan me what I needed to get clear. My mom reminded me I can be both brave and sad at the same time. I went home and scheduled a notary appointment under my own name for my own will and healthcare directive. I named my sister as my agent and felt my stomach bottom out and right itself at the same time. None of this felt like a movie. There was no dramatic slam of a door. There was me on a Tuesday packing a grocery bag with my daughter's socks and loveys, because my parents said I could start staying there with her ease in if I needed. There was me sending an email to daycare to add my last name to her file as the primary contact and to ask, quietly, sheepishly, if they could start hyphenating her name on informal stuff because it creates confusion at pickup. There was me sitting on the floor of the closet and looking at our mismatched hangers, the stupid shirt he wears when he grills, and understanding that my life splits in two if I take it down and put it in a box. I didn't expect the straw to be our daughter's daycare teacher. She's sweet and curious and says more than she should sometimes. When I walked in Wednesday, she handed me a stack of artwork and said, we taught them to say family today. My daughter lifted her paper plate son and said, clear as anything, my family is mommy and daddy and me. Then she whispered wedding like it's a new shape in her mouth. She got it from somewhere, the board book maybe, the one with the cartoon cake she loves. I carried her to the car and cried until the steering wheel was slick. I went home and told Javi I wanted to press pause on the house. I said I would not move into a home I do not legally belong to, with a man who will not sign a single piece of paper binding us in any way. I said I know about the garnishment. I said I'm not stupid, and I'm not a mark. He denied it for 2 full minutes, swearing on his life he didn't know what I was talking about, until I said his mother's name. He called me a backstabber. He said I was trying to tank his life because I didn't get a princess party. He said I was holding our daughter hostage for a diamond. I stood there and listened to words that I know are meant to bruise me in ways no one can see, and I felt this strange, steady warmth start at the base of my skull, and move down my spine. It's the feeling of a person who's not playing anymore. I'm not moving in, I said. I'm not staying here, either. He laughed then, small and disbelieving at the same time, the kind of laugh that's also a dare. I didn't leave that night. I made macaroni and cut up grapes and put a toddler into pajamas with rockets on them. I booked a moving truck for Saturday morning at 8 a.m. I texted my brother to come get the heavy stuff, quietly, because I know Javi and I know the version of him that lives in denial like it's a beachfront condo. I put 3 boxes together and then stopped because everything under my hands meant something once. I lay awake and listened to the building sigh. Friday, something happened I wouldn't have written if I didn't live it. He came home early. He had a small, square box in a bag from a jewelry store I recognized because it's in the mall with the soft pretzels. He set it on the table like a grenade he decided to hold the pin to. He was edgy and sweating. He said, "Okay. I didn't open the box. What are you offering?" I asked. "Marriage," he said, and the word hurt him coming out. "Okay? Marriage. If that's the stupid title you need to feel secure, let's do it. We'll go tomorrow. Quick, easy. We don't need a production. I already have the house lock in. We can make it all line up. It'll be fine." I've spent 7 years wanting him to say that. 7 years. And it landed in my chest like a cold coin dropped into a cup. "Would you sign a prenup?" I asked. He blinked. "What? A prenup," I said, and I kept my voice even. "Since you're worried about titles and the state. Since you have your house and I have my kid and my debt and my body and my very finite time. Since you want to roll this all into one big trust me, sign a prenuptial agreement outlining financial disclosures and debts, and how we'll do this. And we'll sign the medical directives on the same day." He cursed. He said prenups are for people who expect to fail. He said it was insulting. I told him hiding a house is insulting. I told him calling marriage a stupid title is insulting. I told him I will not be bulldozed into a courthouse to make your lender happy. And I don't know why this was the thing that cracked him, but he picked up the little jewelry box and threw it, hard, into the sink like it burned him. It didn't open. It just thunked and lay there, stupid and dark. I left Saturday morning. It wasn't cinematic. It was me and my brother hauling plastic drawers down 3 flights and my dad quietly unscrewing the crib with a good screwdriver because he doesn't want the wood to splinter. It was my daughter eating dry Cheerios from a mixing bowl on the kitchen floor and clapping at the echo. It was Javi doing that thing like he's just discovered I meant it and standing in a doorway asking me, brittle, if I'm really doing this over a goddamn ceremony. It was me telling him I would email him a proposed parenting schedule and that I wasn't slamming the door so much as finally understanding which doors are mine to walk through. I took the POA and will with me. I took my birth certificate and my passport and our daughter's vaccine card. I took the framed picture of us at the lake because I can hold 2 truths in my hands and not die, the truth that we were happy there, and the truth that I'm not safe here. He texted me that night. It was a picture of the ring. It's pretty. It's also an apology written in an alphabet I can't read anymore. He wrote that he made the mortgage company take him off the fast track and that he'll talk to a lawyer about prenups, if that's what it takes to get you home. I stared at the words "get you home" until they blurred. I do not think he understands that home is not a structure he can buy and invite me into. It's a place we make on paper and in practice, with signatures that mean something and with jokes that aren't knives. I don't know yet what happens next in the long sense. I know I am at my parents' house with my daughter breathing like a small engine next to me. I know my chest feels like I've put it down after carrying it for too long. I know I have a notary appointment for myself on Monday. I know the daycare drop-off lady smiled at me and said, "Hyphenating is so cute," like I'd done something fun and not something to anchor myself to my child in a world that keeps asking me to trust without terms. I know I am capable of doing hard things and still wanting softer ones. Update 2, the notary clicked her stamp down on my paperwork and the noise it made was a tiny, square thunderclap. My name looked so official in that thick, blue ink it made my stomach flip. I signed my will, my healthcare directive, I initialed in the little boxes that say, "Yes, I understand what my own life means in the eyes of a stranger" with a seal. I walked out holding a folder that felt heavier than paper and thought, I can do adult without playing pretend. The address on his loan estimate sat in my brain like a pebble in a shoe. After work, with my daughter babbling yellow in the back seat at the sky, I drove there. New build townhome stacked like teeth, a circle of sod stamped down too green to be real. The door at his address, at the address on those forms, had a blue painter's tape X across a lockbox. A man in a blazer was hammering a rider onto the for sale sign. I didn't plan any words but they came out of my mouth anyway. Is the buyer still in escrow? Fell through, he said without looking up. Debt to income, some garnishment issue at underwriting. We'll see if it comes back around. I made a noise that wasn't a word. My daughter shouted bird. At a pigeon and the wind did that dry whisper thing through the new bushes. The agent finally looked at me. You looking to buy? No, I said, and it wasn't even a lie. That night he texted me a paragraph about fate and timing and how I was manifesting our loss by being negative. I put my phone face down and ate the last 2 freezer waffles over the sink because my mom had made salmon and my body said, no, toddler cuisine only tonight. He followed up with a screenshot of a GA meeting schedule. Monday 7 p.m. a room number in a church on the south side I know only from Easter egg hunts. He wrote, going. You happy? I went. Not to police him. To put my body in a chair at the same time as his and listen to what the room does to the air. Styrofoam cups. Burnt coffee that somehow tastes like forgiveness. A circle of metal folding chairs and a man with a voice like gravel saying, we share, we don't fix. Javi introduced himself and said the words I didn't think I'd ever hear come out of his mouth in a way that sounded like him. I'm Javi and I'm a compulsive gambler. It came out clean and then stuck in his throat on the end. People nodded. A woman with a braid to her waist talked about stealing scratch-off money from her own petty cash envelope, about waking up with a bruise made of shame, about calling the hotline because she heard herself lie and realized it sounded like a dead battery. The chair passed to him and he said stuff I didn't know, like how he only ever felt truly present when a score came in, like how the world costed out to the number of units he thought he could flip it for. He didn't look at me. I didn't want him to. At the end they handed him a white chip. 24 hours. He palmed it like a secret. Outside the church he said, so. That, I said. I could feel the ship in me trying to swing back toward his gravity. I gripped my handbag strap until the leather bit my fingers. If you're doing it, do it for you. Not because I'm at my parents' and you want a shortcut. His jaw twitched like he was chewing something he didn't want to swallow. I'll send you the lawyer's information. Prenup. Full disclosure, right? He said the last 2 words like they'd been translated into a language he could pronounce but not speak. I nodded. We stood there, 2 people who know more than they want to know, while the church bells rang 6, 7, 8. Tuesday I emailed him a parenting plan draft. Pickups at 5:30, alternating weekends, FaceTime bedtime on non-custodial nights because she's 2 and thinks you live inside the rectangle. I wrote it like a recipe, this much time, stirred with this much grace. He didn't respond. At 3 p.m. the daycare app pinged me that my daughter had been picked up early by authorized guardian. He is authorized. He is her father. My heart still tried to climb out of my throat. I called him. No answer. I called the daycare and a teacher whose voice I know like a song said, he said you knew. She had her little backpack already. I sat in my parked car outside my parents' house with my turn signal clicking and thought about how every normal thing can be a lever if someone wants it to be. He brought her back at 8:30, already bathed, hair damp and smelling like his mother's laundry soap. He stood in the doorway like he was trying to decide if he should be contrite or cruel and picked the second one because he thinks it makes me soft. Don't gatekeep, he said. You're not the judge. I know, I said. I called one. The word sat between us. He couldn't tell if I meant God or a family court. The prenup lawyer sent me a draft on Thursday. I printed it at my parents' where the ink smells like childhood homework. It looked like a regular document until it didn't. It was full of neat paragraphs that accidentally on purpose said nothing about his debt. Exhibit A for me, student loans, 2 cards, the balance on my car. Exhibit A for him, none disclosed. No mention of garnishment. No mention of sports book accounts or whatever not a bookie a person like him uses when the apps start sending warning banners. A clause about how neither party would pursue the other party's separate property. A clause about spousal support that made my lawyer's eyebrows go north like birds. The only time our daughter appeared was in a line about last names not being subject to unilateral change. I ran my finger along the paper and felt this clean, furious clarity that hums like a wire. Full disclosure means a list, I emailed back. Not a feeling. He called me instead of writing, which is always when I know he's hoping to sell me something with tone. We can do it later, he said. After. Why make it ugly now? Why not just trust I'll do right by you? Because I'm done auditioning for a role in a movie where you're the only one with a script. I kept my voice even. The baby monitor sat on the counter behind me breathing white noise. My mother pretended to unload the dishwasher very, very slowly, which is her tell for trying not to. Listen. He went quiet long enough that I thought the line dropped. You went to the house, he said, catching the string I thought I'd buried. My agent told me some woman asked about escrow. He said she had a kid with marker on her hand. You had to do that? You had to embarrass me at a sign? It embarrassed you when your fiction met a hammer. I was shaking but it didn't make my words wobble. We need an order in place. Exchanges at the precinct, not porches. Phone calls in writing. No more surprise pickups. He said some stuff then, the kind of stuff that sounds like it should be written in a font that looks like handwriting on a throw pillow. Family first, don't weaponize our child, real love doesn't keep score. I let him finish building the normal sounding maze and then I walked right past the entrance. Friday morning I filed a petition to establish custody and support. There is a whole bureaucracy for the thing you never think you'll need when you're laughing in a kitchen with a man making fun of himself for burning bacon on both sides. The courthouse hallway air conditioner clicks like an insect. The clerk had pink nails and a way of putting a paperclip on that made you feel like she'd do it the same way if the paper was a letter to God. He got served at work, which I didn't ask for but still felt like a glass breaking in a quiet room. He called me 30 seconds later and I let it go to voicemail because I'd made chicken nuggets and my daughter was saying dip, dip like it was poetry. My phone transcribed the first line. Are you kidding me with this? Monday he went to GA again. He texted me a picture of the chip on his palm next to a gas station coffee like a proof of life. I believe in chips. I also believe in the math on a W2. His mother called me later and whispered into the phone like the truth is a skittish cat. He's mad at me for telling you, she said. But he's sleeping here tonight and he's not on his phone. I put his keys in my purse. I pictured her standing sentry with a coach bag like a rampart. Love is a lot of strange objects pressed into service. The daycare thing happened again on a Wednesday and this time I didn't wait. I met him in the lobby with 2 police officers whose body cameras blinked little red lights like they were breathing. They were kind in that practiced way where they see the same scene dressed in different t-shirts all day long. Sir, she's requesting exchanges per her proposed plan, the taller one said, hands open. There's a filing underway. Until then, can we do this at the station? Javi flushed this high, teenage flush. He looked like a kid who touched a hot stove after being told not to and was deciding whether to cry or argue he never wanted to eat anyway. He lifted our daughter up and kissed her forehead and handed her over to me without looking at my face. He said, to the cop, not to me, she's making it impossible. We drove to the police precinct after that and traded the diaper bag like it was a diplomatic pouch. The ring came back into my orbit on a Thursday. He left it with my dad, which is either brave or exactly what you do when you need somebody older than both of you to carry the heat. My dad put it on the coffee table and didn't sit down. You can look, he said, doing that thing where he doesn't put sugar on anything. Or you can tell me where to put it. I opened it because I'm human. Oval, thin band, the kind of taste I have for objects that sparkle without screaming about it. I closed it and slid it across the table toward my father. Put it in the junk drawer, I said. Right next to the twist ties. It belongs to the category of things I might reach for purely out of muscle memory. The first hearing was fast like getting your ears pierced at a mall. Wood benches with carved initials from 1,000 other people who also thought they could whisper grief into furniture. The judge had glasses on a chain and a voice that did not have time for the way we weaponize adjectives. We agreed to a temporary schedule with words that feel bigger than they look: primary, joint, legal. The judge said things like in the best interest of the child and no disparagement in front of the minor, and I wanted to print those and put them on our refrigerator, more than I've ever wanted a birth announcement. He started to talk about marriage in that performative, noble tone he saves for saying things he thinks make him look like the good guy, and the judge held up a palm and said, I'm not marrying you. I'm telling you where the child will be on Tuesdays. I don't think anyone has ever reduced him to the size of his actions faster. After, in the hallway, he touched my elbow the way you might touch a dog you're not sure will let you pet it. The house is dead, he said, and for once there was no malice in it. Just loss. I told them to pull my file. I'm doing GA. I talked to a real lawyer about a real prenup with disclosures. He paused and then ruined it by adding, if that's what gets you to stop this circus. This circus, I said, very softly, is the only reason I get to sleep at night without my phone volume at 10. Do your meetings. Do your disclosures. Do not think of any of them as tickets that can be traded in for me. I am not a prize kiosk. He went quiet. Then he said, you always did have a line. And then, after a second, I didn't know you'd find it. At my parents' the sink drips in a rhythm that makes me crazy and also tells me the house has a heart. I bought a fireproof box and put our daughter's birth certificate and her passport and the vaccination record inside and slid the key onto my ring with the mailbox in the car and the one to my childhood bedroom that never really locked. My brother came over and fixed the hinge on the closet door without me asking, and my mother left a pair of pink rain boots on the doormat because she thinks weather is a personality trait. We did the exchange at the station and it was boring in the way safety is. I put the hyphen in my daughter's name on the form at the pediatrician and no one blinked, and I cried in the parking lot for exactly 19 seconds and then stopped because a wasp flew into the car. He sent me a photo of the GA 30-day chip and I put a thumbs up reaction on it and didn't follow it with a heart, which felt in my body like learning to steady a bike without anyone's hand on the seat. He sent me a PDF of a disclosure 2 days later, real numbers, lines that confessed, an apology in an Excel spreadsheet. He asked me to read it and to mark up the prenup and to talk to him like a human being who is trying. I told him I would talk to him like the father of my child and a person I once loved very much who is now a man I cannot keep living with. Both those things can be true and neither is a weapon. Tonight my daughter lay in my bed and named everything she could see: fan, sock, mom's hair, moon. She said family again, and I didn't climb inside the word and beat it into my shape. I just let it sit there like a soft animal getting used to our smell. I thought about ceilings and paper and doors. I thought about how home, for me, is not a blue X on a lockbox or a ring that arrived in a panic. It's this: the click of a notary stamp, The tempered coolness of a courtroom that prefers order to romance, the exact weight of a child's body hip carried to a car under the thin sodium light of a police station, the small, stubborn coin of someone else's sobriety landing in their palm and not mine. It's knowing where my documents are and what my signature does and how to say no without apology, and yes without barter. I don't know if in 10 years I'll tell this part of the story like a caution or a beginning. I know I signed my own name today more times than I've written it since high school. I know it didn't make my hand hurt. I know forever is too big a word to hand to someone who keeps setting it on fire to warm his hands and then asking why the house smells like smoke. I know I'm learning how to make a smaller, truer word, today. And then, if it's safe, tomorrow, and after that, we'll see.